When it comes to resistance training, in order to build muscle strength, there's two main ways to do this. One is using machine weights, the other is free weights. Machine weights are really good for beginners because there's going to be a limited range of motion, it's going to be a little bit safer, and it doesn't require a spotter. However, there are some limitations to this, which makes free weights a little bit better. Free weights are going to be a lot more functional for a sport. It requires the use of your core muscles in order to stabilize other joints in the body, and there's a lot more range of motion. It makes the exercises a lot more beneficial to you as an athlete and bowler. We are actually going to go through a couple of these exercises today with Steven here. Steven is going to be doing some lower body exercises. We're going to start out with just body weight, which is one form of free weight activity, just using gravity as the main resistance. And then we're going to move into some upper body exercises using some dumbbells and barbells. A standard lower body strengthening exercise is the squat. The squat is great because you can do it just using your body weight, but you can also add some weight in as well. The problem is a lot of people don't necessarily do a squat properly. And when you don't do a squat properly, you're not really going through the full range of motion, so you're not getting the benefit of strengthening the muscles through its full movement pattern. And also, you're not really going to be transferring the weight the way you need to, so you actually set yourself up for a more risk of injury or a higher risk of injury. So first off, Steven's going to start off standing with his feet shoulder width apart. He can have his toes pointed forward or slightly out, depending on his personal preference and comfort. He's going to try and keep his weight back on his heels, keep his chest pointed up and out, maybe stick up his chin up a little bit to help keep his back in line in a nice slightly straight or slightly arched position. From there, he's going to slightly flex his hips and his knees to come down to as far as he can and come back up. Typically, if your heels come off the ground or you start to lean forward, then it's time to come back up and then work on some flexibility issues in order to improve your squatting technique. For individuals with balance issues, a good modification to the squat is to use a stool or a chair. Steven's going to start off in a seated position and simply stand up. This is going to use the same motions as the squat, just in a reverse order. Instead of going down and back up, he's going to start down in the seated position and then come up. For beginners to this exercise, it's a little bit easier to start with your hands on your knees to give you a little bit of leverage and an ability to push up from the seated position. As you get better with this, start using the exercise without your hands to make it a little bit more difficult. Another modification of the squat for individuals with balance issues is to use a table or a high standing stool like this. Steven's just going to hold onto the stool as a base of support and then do the squat from there. While doing the squat, try and keep your back in a nice straight alignment and avoid bending over as you hold on to the stool. Some individuals have difficulty doing the squat, and mainly it's because of just getting the rhythm and the movement down of the hips and the knees. For the squat, in the initial movement going down, you have flexion in the hips and in the knees, and on the way up, you have extension in the knees and the hips. And these need to kind of work together. But like lots of things, when you learn something new, it's easier to break it down into simpler movements. And so for this, Steven's going to start off just bending over and touching the stool. This is going to work on hip flexion and also help improve his hamstring flexibility. From here, he's going to bend his knees and get down into the bottom part of the squat. From here, he's going to put his hands above his head and then stand up. And then repeat this as much as possible just to get kind of a nice fluid movement. Some individuals may still have issues doing this exercise, and this could be because of tightness in the calf muscles. So in order to take the calf muscles out of play, we're going to have Steven stand on a board. This is going to cause the ankles to be in a little bit of extension and relaxing the calf muscles. From here, he'll do the same steps, bending over and touching the stool, keeping his legs as straight as possible, then get down into the squat position, hands above his head, and then back up. And then one more time, just to get a nice fluid movement built up. As the exercise gets easier, you can increase the difficulty level by making the stool shorter, so you have to bend over more, increasing your hamstring flexibility. Right now we're still using the bar underneath the heels to relax the calf muscles. Ultimately, we want to be able to do this exercise with your heels flat on the ground and still using the same height stool, if not even a lower height of a stool, to really increase your range of motion in your hamstrings. Eventually, this exercise will really help you get into a deeper squat position with a little bit more balance and be more comfortable while you're doing it, so you can increase your repetitions or even start adding some weight to really increase your muscular strength in your lower body. This variation of the squat involves a wall and a physio ball, also known as a physio ball wall squat. This is going to help Steven because it's going to take some pressure off of the knee and the hips by actually shifting his center of gravity back towards the wall. So he's going to start off with his feet out in front of him a little bit. This is going to be an easier position for those just getting started. And then trying to keep the ball in the middle of his back, he's going to squat down and come back up. Now the ball will roll up a little bit, so be aware of that, and just try not to let the ball jump out in front of you where you fall and hurt yourself. That would be a bad thing. As Steven gets better with this exercise, he's going to move his feet back closer to the wall, moving his center of gravity closer to where it will be during a normal squat without the aid of the ball. This variation of the squat will be good for just helping teach yourself how a squat should feel with the shifting of the weight throughout the exercise. If you have access to a squat rack and some elastic tubing, this is another great exercise to help you improve your squatting technique. By attaching the elastic tubing to the posts of the squat rack and then crossing the elastic band and then wrapping it behind the knees, we can actually help move your center of gravity in a better position to make it easier for you to do a squat. The further away Steven stands from the squat rack, the more tension is going to be applied to elastic tubing, making the squat even easier. Basically, this is going to help move the knees a little bit further in front of Steven where he would normally be, allowing him to get into a deeper position and have a better feeling of what the squat should feel like. As you progress with your squatting technique, there will come a time where you'll need to start adding weight to the exercise in order to fully maximize the potentials that you can get from doing the squat and maximize your strength. We suggest that when you start using a bar with your squats, you really should use a squatting rack. The squatting racks are designed for your safety and the safety of others, with these vertical posts that help prevent any front to back movement that may injure others or yourself. They also have horizontal bars that prevent how deep you can get into your squat. They also provide an aid in case you get into trouble. You have something that can catch the weight so it's not going all the way to the ground. These bars also have the ability to have a resting point for the bars, which is going to be standard on all squat racks. When setting it up for you, you want to make sure that this post is actually at your armpit level to allow you the ability to get underneath the bar and lift it up, and also be able to re-rack it when you're done with the squat without having to exert too much effort after the end of the exercise when you're going to be tired already. An additional safety feature that you should use when doing a squat is, or any other free weight exercise using a barbell, is to use the weight clips. They just slide onto the end of the bar and you can lock them into place to make sure the weights stay where they are. This is important in case you start to get in trouble and lose balance. You don't want the weight sliding off to the side, causing an even more imbalance and further risk of injuring to yourself. For the squat though, we're going to have Steven step underneath the bar and position the bar across the top of his shoulders. This is called a high bar position. There's also a low bar position, but it's not as comfortable for beginning squatters. He'll then just basically stand up to lift the bar off of the holders and get into position with his feet shoulder width apart, feet pointed forward or slightly out, and then from there he'll flex his hips and his knees to the lower, trying to keep his back in a nice straight alignment, and then come back up. Now, when you're doing this exercise, it's going to be good to have a spotter in case you get into trouble. When squatting with a bar, it's preferred that you have a spotter. And actually, in this case, you would want two. Your spotters are going to stand at the side and cup their hands underneath the bar and go down and up with it. In case you get in trouble, they can catch the weight and help you back up into the starting position so you can re-rack your bar. Another exercise to strengthen your lower body is to do the lunge. The lunge can be, at times, easier than a squat because it's easier to get into the full range of motion, but it can also be harder because you're having to use more core muscles and balance on one leg as opposed to two legs. For the lunge, you're going to start off in a standing position, feet fairly close together, toes pointed forward, and you're just going to step out far enough that you feel like you have a nice stretch, and then when you lower your weight down, your knee kind of stays over your ankle or over your feet. You don't really want to go out in front of your toes too much because it's going to add a little bit of extra stress to your knee. Then you'll stand up and then step backwards. Try to make sure that when you come backwards, that you're doing it in a nice controlled and balanced manner and finish your step where your foot started at the beginning of the exercise. For those individuals with balance issues, it might be easier to do a split squat to start out with. With this, you're going to get into the same starting position for a normal lunge and extend your foot out, and then you're just going to lower your weight and then come back up. And instead of coming back to the starting position, you're just going to continue to lower and raise your weight kind of like a squat. So you get the benefits of the lunge without all the balance of coming back and forward that could cause an increased risk of injury if you have any balance issues. For additional balance support during the split squat, you can use a stool or a table to hold on to as a base of support while doing the exercise. Steven is going to get into the same position and lower himself up and back up while holding on to the stool for the extra balance support. The lunge is a great activity because you can add other movements into it to make it more challenging and increase the number of muscles that are used to it so you get a more beneficial workout. Steven's going to do a lunge and then rotate his core or his torso from side to side and then come back up. This is going to help work with the rotator muscles of the spine and the abdomen. The lunge can also be made more challenging by adding a weight. In this case, we're using a medicine ball to a normal lunge. And then by incorporating the movements of the rotation, we're actually increasing the difficulty of the lunge one more step higher. Another variation of the lunge is to incorporate a side bend at the bottom portion of the lunge. So Steven is going to bend down, put one hand above his head, and then lean towards the side that has the knee extended out in front. This is going to incorporate additional abdominal muscles into the exercise. The addition of a medicine ball to the lunge with the side bend can make it more challenging because you have the extra weight above your head that you're going to have to use your abdominal muscles to help support. As you progress through your lunge training and develop more lower body strength, you can start using dumbbells with your lunges to add increased weight. You want to start with a weight that's easy for you to manage, something that's easy for you to hold on to and won't cause any balance issues. So starting with a lighter weight is okay, and then move into something a little bit heavier. You're going to use the same lunging technique, just holding the weight to your side. An additional variation of the lunge is to use a barbell instead of the dumbbells for adding increased weight. For this, we're using the squat rack, but we've positioned the holders on the outside of the rack because of the range of motion of the lunge. We don't want to be restricted by the vertical posts. So we have the rack set the same height as the squat. So these holders are going to be right about armpit level. Steven's going to get in the same position, the bar across his shoulders. He's going to stand up, lift the bar in front of him, or lift the bar up. Then he's going to get into his lunge position and then lunge out, lower his body weight down, come back up, and then once he's done with his repetitions, he's going to re-rack the bar. Lunges can also be done in reverse. Steven's just going to stand in the same position, but instead of stepping forward, he's going to step backwards. Then he'll lower his weight down to the ground, trying to keep his knee over his ankle, mid-foot area, and then bring his weight back up. Then he'll step forward instead of backwards to return to the starting position. The backwards lunge is going to affect the muscles in a little bit different manner than the forward lunge. You're going to get more flexibility benefits in the hip flexor area, and it's just going to train the quadricep muscles and the glutes in a little bit different manner than a forward lunge will, so you get a better overall balance of your lower body strength. Your bowling game, squatting technique, and lunging technique can all benefit from better hamstring flexibility. Now we can increase our hamstring flexibility by bending over and touching our toes while keeping our legs straight. We can also do it by leg swings, but we can also do it through this exercise here. In this instance, we are using a plyometric box with a weight on it to help keep it stabilized. At home, this can be a lot easier to do by just doing this exercise in a door frame. Steven here is in a position where he's going to get his hips as close to the box as possible, particularly in his left hip. He's going to extend his left leg out, trying to keep his knee as straight as possible. He's then going to lift his right leg up above, trying to keep it as straight as possible. He's going to lower it as far as he can until a nice stretch is felt, and then bring it back up. Raising and lowering his leg about 10 to 20 times is going to give a good stretch and really start to help increase your hamstring flexibility. For those who have balance issues, hamstring flexibility can be worked on without actually having to get all the way to the ground. In this case, Steven is going to sit on a stool. He's going to be closer to the edge, and he's going to extend a leg out, point his toes towards the ceiling, and then reach out with his hand. Trying to keep his leg straight, he'll get a nice stretch in his hamstring. Free weight exercises are great for the upper body because they're going to incorporate more core muscle activation. Plus, it means that you have to use your stabilizing muscles in your shoulder in order to really do the exercise properly and to get the most benefit. One exercise that we can do right here is an upright row. Steven's just going to stand and lift the bar up to his chest and lower it back down. This is a great exercise to use with a bar weight because it's going to be able to use both hands at the same time. To make it more challenging, you can use a dumbbell, but it makes it really difficult, and it takes a lot of synchronization between both hands in order to do it properly. Rows are important exercises for bowling. They help strengthen the back muscles and the stabilizers of the shoulder. With bowling, we get a lot of injuries due to tightness and overdevelopment of the chest muscle and bicep muscle, so it's important to work the muscles of the back to help balance things out. Another exercise to work the muscles of the back is the bent over row. So Steven's going to stand in the same position as the upright row, except he's going to bend over, keep his back nice and straight and flat, and then bring the bar to his chest. He's going to lower it back down in a controlled manner and then bring it back up again. Once he's done, he'll stand up and then position the weight back into a resting position. Another variation of the row is the bent over one-armed row. For this, Steven is positioned on a bench. He has one knee on the bench. His opposite foot is on the ground to provide a base of support. He's going to bend over, place his hand on the pad. Now he wants his leg that's in contact with the ground to be on the same side as the weight. He'll pick up the weight and then bring it up towards his chest. Now with all rowing exercises, you want to focus on squeezing your shoulder blades together in order to get the biggest benefit of the row by really incorporating the muscles that stabilize the shoulder blade. And by squeezing the shoulder blades together, we get to incorporate those muscles the most. In the bent over one-armed row position, we can also work our tricep muscles. Steven's going to pick up the weight and get into the end position of the row. From here, he'll just simply extend his elbow, working his tricep muscle. The tricep muscles can also be worked using the overhead tricep extension exercise. This can be done with both two hand and one hand. Here Stephen is demonstrating the two-hand method. So you're going to put the weight behind your head and flex your elbow as far as you can, and then lift the weight above your head by extending your elbows. By lifting it, you'll be working your tricep muscles. To make this exercise a little bit more difficult, you can do it one-handed and working one side at a time. This is going to cause a little bit more of a stability issue, so it's really going to help work the stabilizing muscles of the shoulder, giving you a little bit more benefit. Now, the reason we want to work the tricep muscles is because with bowling, we get a little overdeveloped in our bicep muscles, especially if we have a little bit of a technique issue in our physical game. So by working the tricep muscles, we can help balance out these issues and help our swings become a little bit more looser and more refined. Although some bowlers oftentimes have overdeveloped bicep muscles, not every bowler does. And so it's important to train the bicep muscles, and it's important to train them the right way. Right now we're going to be using a couple of dumbbell weights. Steven's going to have them hanging to his side. He's going to move them out in front of him. He's going to rotate his wrists out and then bring them up to his chest and lower them back down in a controlled manner. Now you can do this like Steven is demonstrating right now, both dumbbells at the same time. You can do them one at a time. And you can also have your wrists started out on this, as he had at the beginning, holding the weights to his side, and then bring them up like that, keeping the wrist in the same position the entire exercise. And he can also rotate his wrist while he brings them up. These are all going to work the muscle in a little bit different way, giving you a better benefit in overall muscular strength of the bicep. Now, when choosing a weight, you want a weight that you can raise and lower easily without having to use a whole bunch of other muscles involved. Oftentimes when you go to the gym, you'll see people lifting weights and they're having to really use their back to get the weight up. Now that's not going to be as beneficial because you're not isolating the muscle by itself and you're activating other muscles that we don't really want to do, and puts you at an increased risk of back problems. There are a variety of foam rollers that you can buy. They vary in length and density so that they can work different areas a little bit easier, and the density makes it so there's either greater or less pressure depending on what type of pain you can tolerate, because this can be painful when you first start out. The first exercise we're going to show here is for the IT band. The IT band runs from your hip down to your knee and can get very tight in individuals that run a lot. And we've seen that bowlers having a very tight IT band issue as well. So Steven's going to position himself with the foam roller underneath his hip, and he's going to put one foot on top of the other, and he's basically just going to allow the foam roller to work its way down to his knee. He's going to keep his weight over the foam roller so that he gets the most benefit from the stretch. Foam rolling can be very beneficial for tight hamstrings. Steven's going to position himself on top of the foam roller with the roller behind his knees, and he's just going to roll down to his hips. This is going to work the hamstrings by basically doing a very deep tissue massage. He can also isolate different muscles of the hamstrings by the way that he rotates his thighs on top of the foam roller. We can also use the foam roller to work on the calf muscles. Working in the calf muscles is important because they both the calf and the hamstring muscles overlap the knee, and they can have a significant impact on how much knee bend you get in the finish position at the foul line. This stretch is going to work on the glutes and the external rotators of the hip. A lot of times they can get tight and add extra pressure to the low back, so it's important to keep these nice and loose. Steven's going to put one foot on the opposite knee and then lean into the stretch in order to isolate the section of his hips that are actually getting foam rolled. This is going to increase the pressure, but in the long term is going to have increased benefits for his bowling game. For this stretch, Steven is going to sit on one end of the foam roller and then basically just lay back, trying to keep the foam roller in line with his spine. From here, he can lift his arms above his head and then also try and bring them back towards the floor. This is going to really give a deep stretch to the chest that a lot of times gets over tight in bowling situations. By moving his arms through a range of motion, he can isolate different areas that may feel tighter to him, so he can focus on those areas and just kind of sit there for a while to let things relax and loosen up quite a bit.